So here's 3 of the best shoulder exercises that you've never tried. These are different. And again, if you have a plateau with your shoulders and want to supercharge building your shoulders up, then check these out. So a lot of times, like people will say, well, can't you just use traditional shoulder building exercises? Absolutely, you should. But these 3, again, I would plug them into the program because you can really spur some change and bust through plateaus. And just like Dan John said, what's the best program? Is the one that you're not on. And so adding some of these is really going to help you out. And watch, they're different, they're challenging. So I'm going to take you through them, apply them into your next shoulder building program. So these are going to be long lateral raise isometrics. I got this from Christian Thibodeau back in the day, and I used it. And when I did, it really, really helped and built my shoulders up. And again, this was not something I started a program with. I was still doing, again, some of my regular shoulder, military presses, things of that nature. But check this out. These are very long, like 2.5 minute long sets. And I'll explain how you do them. There's like, if you had a dip, I would say a dip handle machine, I would actually really like that one as well. You can do them against, you can see I'm here in the rig, pushing out, finding out. First, I'm going to find a position of like, where am I feeling my, okay, right there, feeling my shoulders the most, right? To push into here. I'm going to push at 90% intensity, right? So I'm going to really push hard, right, into this. As long as I can. Once I can't do it anymore and it kind of starts dissipating, I'm going to bring my tension back down to only 10%, almost like resting but still creating some tension, and then ramping it back up again and going as hard as I possibly can. Usually it's going to be about 30 to 40 seconds once you start kind of like just, not being able to push hard, get that 10% for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, however long you need, and then ramp it back up. And that should last for 2 to 2.5 minutes per set. Now, I'm going to show you guys probably about 45, 60 seconds of this so you kind of get an idea. Again, I like to position myself to first see where I feel my shoulders the most. So right here, my delts are on, right? So I'm going to start pushing as hard as I can. So I'm really trying to apply maximum tension here. And because it's an isometric, I can do this for quite a bit. Again, so let's say we're about 30 to 40 seconds in, and I just can't push as hard anymore. So I'm bringing it back down. I'm still pushing. I still have tension on my shoulders, but I'm getting a little bit of kind of rest. And then I would ramp it back up again. And I would go for, again, 2 to 2.5 minutes. I'm definitely feeling that. So there's a couple of things that happen here, right? That on average, if I'm thinking about lateral shoulder raises, I only have really high tension in certain parts of that movement for seconds. Where here, at a specific point, we can create a ton of tension, essentially mechanical tension, even though it's an isometric, and we're just getting more tension at a specific point for a longer period of time. And then there's also the oscillatory part of it, right? Where there's constant tension, there's not much oxygen coming into the muscle. So again, this works. So if you're putting, again, a couple of sets of this towards the end of your training session, it becomes very, very effective. And that's, again, one of the exercises that's different that if you start using for the next 3, 6, 8 weeks, depending on your phases, can really, really spur some muscle growth. So the second exercise is long duration farmer's walks. Right now, a couple of things. You can do farmer's walks with dumbbells, kettlebells, trap bar. I love the trap bar, and I'll explain why. But the long duration, when you're doing farmer's walks, basically there's these micro oscillations in the shoulders, right? Because there's so many micro adjustments that you make as you're moving. And those are rapid firings of those, I would say, those muscle tissues, right? Because again, it's constantly stabilizing the shoulder. And on top of that, I'm going to use the trap bar for one reason, because I'm going to try to push my shoulders out like I'm doing a lateral raise. So I'm going to hold this, and that's why I like I would say the trap bar for this, because I'm going to lift it. It's a little bit wider. I'm going to try to punch it out, right? So I'm going to actively add some more shoulder tension. And again, 1 to 3 minutes, this is actually my routine. So if I was going to do 1 minute walks, I would do 4 sets. 2 minute walks, I'd do 3 sets. And 3 minute walks, I do 2 sets, right? But I'll just show you an example. So I'm going to lift this up. I'm actively pushing my shoulders out right now. And when I'm walking, there's just a lot of those micro oscillations going on. And that's gonna, again, create a bunch of tension on those fibers. Imagine that I'm moving around now, where I'm turning around. And I'm constantly, I'll actually walk backwards a little bit so I can talk to you guys. I'm constantly trying to rip my arms out, right? Pushing them out like I'm doing a lateral raise. So now imagine that I'm doing this for at least a minute, and I can use heavy loads. For a minute, I can use pretty damn heavy loads, push them out. Again, there's a lot of stuff happening in that shoulder, and that's gonna really help you build those shoulders. Now, there's another, we would have challenges with some of our athletes where we go and take 26-pound kettlebells, maybe even 35s, and walk a mile. So that's gonna get your grip, but it's also gonna get your shoulders. So this is another method you can apply into your upper body and or your shoulder training that's really gonna build muscle over time. So these are banded lateral raises, and I'm gonna put somewhere between 5 to 20 pounds, and then kind of like loop them around. On this one, I have 10 right here, is plenty. And we're gonna do longer duration, like 60 to 90 seconds, iso holds. Now you might say, like, why not just regular isometric holds? Well, when I punch these up, and I'll show you guys in a second, for me to try to just stay in the same place, they're gonna bounce. There's gonna be a relaxation effect, and then those really fast twitch fibers need to activate to stabilize, right? So we're activating those really fast twitch fibers for a longer duration of time. Again, getting that micro oscillatory effect. And again, that's gonna change things up. So watch, I'm gonna go bring them up fast to this lateral raise position, and then they're bouncing, and I'm just trying to keep them steady. And then once they stop bouncing, I'm dropping again. Oh, starting to get juicy. And let's say that I get really fatigued between those 60 to 90 seconds. I might bring them down just for a couple seconds, shake it back off, and come back up. So notice that once they stop shaking, I just drop them. A little bit more, right? And again, these are longer duration, like we've been talking about in all the 3 different exercises and methods. So I want to have a fast drop. I want it to bounce as much as possible. I want to resist my arms coming down, right? So I'm dropping, coming up, and I want it to stay as steady as possible. Once it slows down, I do it again, right? And I'm just keeping that for that 60 to 90 second period, taking a full break. And again, 2 to 3 sets is what I'd incorporate into my training session. Now, you might say, hey, why not just stick with the basics? Again, I said it earlier, I'll say it again. Hell yeah, do the basics. But add some of these exercises in, and you'll see a difference as you're building your shoulders up. So, for more tips like this, to look, feel, perform more like an athlete without nagging and pains, make sure to follow this channel.